The land splits into long fractures that cut across the plain like ancient scars. A heavy veil of dust drifts close to the ground, stretching toward the horizon. Above, thin clouds scatter, allowing sunlight to pour through and strike the hardened surface below. There is no flowing river here, yet the earth begins to tremble. Across the cracked crust, thousands of hooves strike in unison. With every step, dust erupts and spreads outward. The first animals move forward, and behind them the surge continues. Grasses bend in the direction of travel, carving a pathway that seems to have no end. The entire savanna moves to a single rhythm. From the open plains of the Serengeti to the gentle lowlands of the Masai Mara, the ground is no longer still. Herds of every size advance with the wind, guided by distant signs of rain. Each journey is part of a greater cycle, where survival depends on a migration timed with remarkable precision. Nothing in this ecosystem remains unchanged. It shifts with the seasons, with water, with the growth of grass, and with the passage of each herd. Every species plays a defined role, and every behavior helps sustain the pulse that keeps the plains alive. When one species begins to move, another immediately adjusts its course. As grass is grazed down to the soil, waste returns vital nutrients to the ground. When prey falls, decomposers are already in place. Together, the Serengeti Masai Mara region functions as one of East Africa's central biological engines. Energy is generated the moment hooves strike the earth and is carried onward through every mouthful of grass, every chase, and every fallen body. Nothing in this system exists without purpose. Each element matters only when it flows with the natural rhythm. Across these untamed grasslands, the Great Migration draws all forms of life into a powerful predatory cycle that never truly pauses. Fresh shoots blanket the land after recent rains, their narrow leaves bent in unison by the wind. On the open plains, newborn calves stumble away from the birthing grounds and merge into the moving mass of adults, advancing without hesitation. They do not wait for strength to build. Motion begins at once. As the rainy season reaches the southern edge of the Serengeti, wildebeest herds leave their calving areas. The first groups cross the damp earth, trampling young growth and etching their path across the plain. The movement does not break. Smaller groups merge into larger bodies as herds from different directions converge along shared corridors. Routes may shift, but the overall direction remains unchanged. The pace is steady and relentless. Under thousands of hooves, the ground yields, forming deep impressions. Grass is pressed flat. Droppings fall in an unbroken pattern. The air grows heavy with the scent of bodies, waste, and churned soil. Every footprint marks the passage of a living current sweeping across the savannah. New life quickly appears in its wake. Dung beetles burrow beneath fresh mounds. Low-flying birds follow closely, and weaker wildebeest begin to lag behind. Their presence draws scavengers and predators waiting along the edges. The migration cuts through the grasslands, opening pathways that other species soon follow. Tall grasses vanish, old roots are broken, and the soil is loosened by hooves and organic matter. Each area they cross becomes a zone of biological renewal after the dry season. Every wildebeest plays a direct role while alive. They deposit nutrients and chemical traces. In death, their bodies become centers of decomposition. Birds, insects, and microbes arrive in layers. There is no need to search. Food is already available for scavengers. There is no delay. Beetles immediately begin their work. There is no isolation. Predators simply watch and wait for those that slip behind the flow. All life benefits from this concentrated movement. Wildebeest do not create the ecosystem, but they set it in motion. Microbial communities in the soil awaken as organic matter surges through the system. Other species begin their own journeys as the wild pulse passes. This ecosystem does not operate by chance. It responds precisely to the signals released by the migration. As the wildebeest press forward, the grazing zones along their migratory corridor are reshaped in real time. Life concentrates along their path, and every place they touch becomes a link between multiple biological layers. No single species clears the way alone. No cycle begins without a trigger. Reproduction follows the rhythm of the rains while the soil still holds moisture. New life is born. The moment the calves are able to stand, the herd moves on again. This tight synchronization offers protection from immediate predators, but it also sends powerful signals through the entire system. The landscape left behind changes rapidly. Grass sprouts where it was once trampled. Bacteria break down organic remains, and moisture is retained near the surface thanks to the fresh input of nutrients. For a time, each area crossed by the herd becomes a center of biological renewal. Other grazers arrive later, taking advantage of what remains. Older vegetation has already been consumed, allowing shorter, younger grasses to flourish. There is no direct competition. Many species rely on the wildebeest's passage as a natural process of clearing and renewal. The soil stays loose, roots spread more easily, and conditions align for the next cycle. The moving mass of wildebeest also reshapes the strategies of predators. Hunters must adjust their breeding seasons, ambush tactics, and territories according to the herd's pace and direction. Scavenging birds track the places where carcasses appear. Vultures, crows, and wild dogs gather around zones marked by decay. The ecosystem keeps time like a living structure. Rain may set the stage, but the wildebeest herd is the first mechanism to turn. single animal chooses the route, yet together they generate enough momentum to drive the entire system. On the living map of the region, the wildebeest migration acts like a heartbeat. Each year, that pulse returns. From the southern calving grounds to the northern grasslands, every stretch of land responds in a predictable sequence. Other species do not exist because of the wildebeest alone, but the functioning of the system begins with their passage. Nothing in the herd's behavior happens in isolation. Every hoof that strikes the ground sets change in motion. The land shifts, vegetation is redistributed, and new life emerges. This is why wildebeest signal the beginning of the life cycle in East Africa, not because they are the strongest or the fastest, but because their first step sets the entire ecosystem in motion. Each year, when the first rains return and soften the land, a single hoof meets the ground once more. From that moment of contact, the cycle of life begins again. Short grasses spread across the damp soil at dawn. The air is still. At the edge of a shallow hollow, a pride of lions lies pressed low, concealed among scattered shrubs. Early light washes over their backs, blending with earth darkened by heat. In the distance, a wildebeest herd advances. The groups stretch into loose lines, shifting direction as they follow the low ground. Gaps begin to open between individuals. Young calves drift toward the edges, and the lions hold their ground, using the contours of the land, moving in wide, deliberate arcs. Each hunter keeps a precise distance. Angles of approach tighten from multiple sides. There is no warning, no prolonged chase. As the herd crosses the depression, the moment unfolds. One animal becomes separated. Its escape route narrows. An open patch of ground becomes the point where motion ends. The prey falls, and the grass is pressed flat beneath it. The lions spread out around the body. One secures the kill, while the others melt back into cover. The landscape settles into silence. Wind moves on. There is no struggle, no further disturbance. Hoofprints remain etched into the loosened soil. The scent of blood begins to drift close to the ground. This hunt is driven by precision, not speed. Lions do not rely on long chases. They succeed through positioning, spacing, and a deep understanding of herd movement. Each individual plays a role. When the distance closes, force is applied together. Often, prey is taken in moments of imbalance, too far from protection and too close to avoid the closing circle. The outcome is shaped by natural behavior, not by chance or error. Once selected, the prey cannot recover its position. High above, scavenging birds sense the warmth of the body and begin to circle at altitude. On the ground, beetles detect the organic scent released into the air. Decomposers arrive even before the lions leave the site. Within hours, the soil around the carcass darkens, their fluids seep into the base of the grasses. Roots draw in the nutrients. Soil bacteria cling to what remains. New shoots begin to rise, guided by heat, moisture, and nitrogen. By afternoon, the pride rests beneath low trees stretched along the brush. Around them, the grass stands still once more. No major movement follows. The marks of their paws extend across the softened paths and fade at the edge of the plain. The morning hunt leaves no sound behind, but the land retains its evidence-absorbed fluids, embedded bones, and microbial changes already underway. Short grass spreads evenly across the open landscape, carrying forward the quiet imprint of what has passed. The ground is dry and fragile. Beneath low shrubs pressed close to the earth, a leopard moves without sound through narrow gaps. Its body stays flattened against the soil, detached from any motion above. The wind shifts again and again, pushing patches of grass in different directions. Nothing breaks the boundary of dust and shadow. The distance closes steadily, without disturbing the scene. Ahead, a group of Thompson's gazelles feeds, spaced in loose, even lines. Younger animals linger toward the outer edges, drifting with the breeze. Between hunter and herd, there is no cover, only open, arid ground. The leopard maintains a measured pace, making no sudden adjustments and never rushing the moment. At a workable range, it pauses beside a small rise. Its body folds into the edge of shade. The landscape holds its breath. When a leopard hunts on open plains, conditions must align gentle undulations in the land, evenly scattered shrubs, and prey that remains spread out rather than tightly grouped. Hunting alone leaves no margin for recovery once detected. A single misstep sharply reduces the chance of success. There is no partner to disrupt the herd, no coordinated retreat. Every phase depends on closing the gap with absolute precision. If that limit is crossed, the prey reacts and control is lost. The leopard is not built for endurance across open ground. Its strength lies in short bursts of speed. Each chase unfolds over a brief distance. If the line breaks or the gazelle responds instantly, The attempt fails, and failure is more common than success. Not due to a lack of skill, but because the leopard's hunting space is shaped by countless variables: wind direction, sun angle, grass height, and prey distribution. Even so, its presence alone alters gazelle behavior. Small herds rarely remain spread out in exposed areas. Youngsters draw closer to their mothers. Feeding pauses. Groups quicken their pace when crossing zones with limited visibility. A successful kill is not required to leave an effect. The mere appearance of a leopard reshapes herd formation and rest patterns. Grazing cycles shift, reducing pressure on a single spot and spreading vegetation used more evenly across the region. Leopards do not challenge lions or hyenas through open conflict. Their solitary approach adds a second layer of influence. They avoid direct competition, yet they shape how prey occupies the landscape. No herd stays concentrated for long. No herbivore holds prolonged control over the plains. This irregular presence forces prey to disperse in search of lower risk. No group maintains the same structure long enough to damage grass growth. No area is stripped bare. The pressure is subtle but constant. A baseline level of alertness persists, even without active hunts. The leopard favors isolation and leaves little trace. It draws no gatherings of scavengers. Small prey is consumed quickly, leaving minimal remains and little scent to attract larger species. By selecting smaller animals, the leopard limits interference and avoids attention. Its role rarely sparks conflict within the predator network. As evening approaches, it withdraws quietly from the edge of the plain. Across the Grumeti Plains, the ground bears fine cracks left by a brief dry spell. Fresh grass has emerged, though it has not yet grown dense. Moving through the open landscape, a herd of zebras advances in a broad, organized line. Their passage raises little dust. The great wildebeest herds are still distant, not yet reaching this transitional zone. Striped bodies glide across the plain, trimming the grass as they head east and northeast. Shadows stretch over the pale soil. Larger individuals hold a steady pace, while smaller groups remain along the edges. The leading position shifts constantly. Their route is traced as a lighter band across the land. Grass bends and flattens into a gentle arc. Zebras typically travel ahead of the main migratory waves. They enter areas still untouched by hooves, following paths of their own. No collective signal is required. As soon as rainfall is sufficient to lift the grass slightly, the herd begins to move. Their journey remains local, yet it consistently precedes the peak of migration. This timing introduces a different rhythm into the system. Zebras do not wait for grass to reach its most tender stage. They arrive early, feeding on the upper portions of the stems and leaving the lower layers undisturbed. When other grazers follow later, the grass has already been trimmed closer to the ground, better suited to their feeding styles. As the herd crosses the region, it leaves a clear grazing line shaped by the direction of the wind. Vegetation is cut evenly. Low shrubs lose much of their cover, allowing more sunlight to reach the soil. The landscape becomes brighter and more open. Understory plants begin to reorganize in response to the new structure. Throughout their movement, zebras do not maintain rigid formations. They travel in spaced groups, widening the grazing corridor. At shallow water sources, the herd breaks into smaller units, each using different patches of vegetation depending on the terrain. This division creates a layered effect. Every cleared section becomes accessible to other life forms. From insects and ground birds to small herbivores, no single area remains crowded for long. The remaining biological layers are reshaped evenly across the plain. Zebras do not graze down to the roots. They affect only the upper growth, preserving the base. This residual layer becomes ideal for low-grazing species such as gazelles, warthogs, and smaller trailing groups of wildebeest. By moving first, zebras slow the intensity of impact caused by the larger herds that arrive later. Their breeding is not concentrated in one mass, allowing them to split freely into smaller groups. These units move independently without disrupting the broader migratory cycle. Each advances at its own pace, giving grasslands time to recover. No area becomes a lasting bottleneck within the system. When predators draw near, zebras do not respond by tightening into a dense mass. Instead, they fan out across open ground, breaking formation rather than compressing it. This behavior disrupts hunting strategies that rely on confusion within tight groups. By spreading apart, the pressure of pursuit is diluted, increasing escape opportunities for other species sharing the landscape. The tracks zebras leave behind are shallow yet continuous. Their droppings fall widely spaced instead of accumulating in heavy clusters. This even distribution enriches the soil surface, helping the grass retain moisture at its base. From these scattered nutrients, soil bacteria begin to expand. Dung beetles soon arrive, drawn by scent, turning and loosening the earth so new roots can take hold. From an ecological standpoint, zebras create a horizontal flow of biological movement. Their impact lacks the vertical force of wildebeest hooves or the concentrated pressure exerted by buffalo. But this steady passage reduces direct stress on the land. the ground absorbs a lighter, prolonged influence that is spread evenly across the plains. Predators adjust their routines to follow zebra movements, increasing the chances of successful ambushes. Lions, hyenas, and wild dogs position themselves in areas not yet reshaped by massive herds. Before the main migration arrives, regions such as Grumeti function as independent hunting grounds. As a result, predation pressure is distributed more evenly over time. Zebras do not impose an intense biological load, but they help disperse its effects. The system absorbs this energy at multiple points. The soil is not disturbed for extended periods. Roots retain part of their protective layer, and recovery cycles resume more quickly after each change. During transitional seasons, if only the Great Migration crossed these plains, the land would bear the full force in a very short window. The soil would not have time to recover. Microorganisms would also struggle to multiply fast enough. Grass would be torn out by the roots rather than simply trimmed. Without zebra herds, the migratory corridor would lose its first layer of distribution. Predator activity would become compressed into fewer moments, and restoration cycles would lack a buffer. The grassland would shift in color more rapidly, exposing roots too early. The ecosystem would lose its characteristic resilience, becoming a narrow and fragile passage across open terrain. Zebras leave no dramatic aftermath, yet each passing group clears the surface, opens sight lines, and allows wind to move freely for a brief time. Every quiet wave of migration strengthens the system. It is this staggered, subtle rhythm that prevents the entire migratory movement from collapsing into a single, overwhelming surge. Across the open grassland, a narrow path cuts through the plain. Dust lifts lightly along a zigzag line, while the wind slips through mid-height grasses, carrying traces of movement that have not yet faded. Thompson's gazelles appear in small, scattered clusters, each animal keeping a carefully measured distance, guided by finely tuned instinct. On bare ground, there are no obstacles and no tall cover. Every movement is swift, marked by sudden turns that shorten the time spent within a predator's line of sight. When danger emerges on the horizon, the gazelles spring away on diagonal paths. Their escape routes curve unpredictably, forming a web of motion that is nearly impossible to read. Within moments, the group's structure loosens under outward pressure, then reforms once the threat passes. Calving takes place in isolated spots across the dry plain. The gazelles do not gather, nor do they remain in one place. Each female selects her own patch of short grass and moves at her own pace. As soon as the young can stand, the group shifts again, leaving no clear traces and no prolonged pauses. This scattered strategy prevents gazelles from becoming easy targets. Lions, hyenas, and leopards usually succeed only when an individual strays too far from the group's flow. Most maintain a steady rhythm, avoiding major breaks in formation. Speed aids their escape, but it is their unpredictable direction that most often disrupts an ambush. In such an exposed landscape, there is no true shelter. Gazelles turn openness itself into a defense. The clearer the space, the lower the risk. During the peak of the dry season, they make up much of the remaining biomass. While larger herds like wildebeest and zebras have already moved on, gazelles continue to travel steadily across the plains. They graze close to the ground, feeding on shoots that have not been trampled. Their constant motion prevents the grass from losing its color entirely. Each passage attracts small scavengers, field insects, and ground-dwelling birds. Their hooves leave shallow impressions that hold moisture just long enough for new growth to emerge. Areas crossed by gazelles often recover faster than untouched ground. Their ability to leave sensitive spots and return from different directions sustains a continuous rhythm of life. No species can survive by remaining fixed in one pattern here. Persistence depends on movement without permanent roots. Gazelle groups connect scattered pockets of life into a lasting biological flow. They serve as a buffer between top predators and lower levels of the food web. Without triggering population surges, they help maintain surface stability. When gazelles vanish from a region, the middle layer of prey collapses, forcing predators to shift abruptly and disrupting the natural order. The ecosystem loses its balancing force. Within the vast movement of the Serengeti Mara, gazelles act like a seam between ecological layers, thin yet vital. Each time they skim the ground in flight, they leave a subtle imprint. From that imprint, the rhythm of life holds its balance. After a night of rain, the ground remains damp, and a low mist still clings to the grass. From a shallow hollow at the edge of the plain rises a sour scent, the unmistakable sign of old flesh. Lying on its side is a carcass, the hide torn open in a long, ragged seam. Spotted hyenas approach from different points on the horizon. Within the group, order is precise. Each animal takes a position around the body without chaos or struggle. Powerful jaws tear effortlessly through tissue, stripping away large sections of meat and exposing bare bone. Slowly, the carcass is reduced and scattered by wind and movement. As the main structure collapses, younger hyenas move in from the edges. Their teeth are not searching for soft flesh. They lock into joints, separate limbs, and remove the final fragments clinging to bone. Only dry soil adheres to the exposed marrow. Everything else is broken down into small, disappearing pieces. Hyenas operate as a highly organized unit. Dominant individuals choose moments to hunt when conditions favor them. It is not an ending for predators or prey, but for the entire cycle that begins again where flesh breaks down. No presence interrupts and regulates the system as effectively as the hyena. They enter hunting grounds, tear flesh from powerful animals, and consume what remains. When they leave, the land is clean. No odor, no residue, no biological risk. On the living map of the savannah, where every creature leaves behind waste, only the hyena turns those remnants into a starting point. No other animal consumes what is left at the very end. When all have moved on, only dust remains, and the distant echo of the hyena, marking clearly that the cycle is complete and the ground is ready to begin again. Across the vast African plains, the great migrations reveal survival in its purest form. Every crossing, every shift in direction, every split-second choice can determine who endures and who falls behind. Danger is ever-present, unseen predators, deceptive rivers, and a harsh landscape that tests even the strongest bodies and instincts. Yet despite these risks, millions of animals press forward, driven by an ancient impulse to endure, adapt, and keep moving. In this endless journey, unity becomes strength, resolve becomes protection, and survival stands as the sole objective. With this, we conclude our exploration of one of the most powerful and extraordinary spectacles in the natural world. In the midst of this otherworldly silent expanse, a herd of elk makes its way slowly across the untouched snow. These massive creatures of the frozen north bear enormous antlers, not only as weapons, but as emblems of resilience and strength against the biting winter. They move with measured steps across the snowy plains, ears swiveling constantly for the faintest sound. Every hoofprint sinks deep into the fresh snow, leaving a mark of life itself. Yet in Yellowstone, even these giants are not beyond danger. Every hoofprint sinks deep into the fresh snow, leaving a mark of life itself. Yet in Yellowstone, even these giants are not beyond danger. They do not rush. Patience is their ally. The wind shifts, and the subtle crunch of snow under the elk's hooves carries through the mist. One young elk wanders slightly from the group. The herd leader signals with a glance, and instantly, the animals move as one shadow streaking across the white, dark arrows cutting through the landscape. Without warning, the hunt erupts. The elk charge forward, muscles straining, while the wolves close in, relentless and coordinated. They rotate positions, guiding and pressuring the herd along a precise path. In the wild, the cooperative hunting tactics of wolves stand as one of the most extraordinary examples of evolutionary behavior. They do not strike directly. Instead, they work together with precision, flanking, isolating, and driving their prey toward a place where the balance of power can shift. The air trembles with heavy breaths, the crunch of hooves in the snow, and the echo of a pursuit that may end in life or death. Further ahead, a frozen creek slices across the landscape. Dark water winds beneath a thin veil of ice. The elk pauses for only a moment, then launches itself forward. Its massive frame plunges into the icy water like a living spear. The wolves stop at the bank, growling and pacing, yet none dare brave the freezing current. Even these feared predators are at a disadvantage in deep, frigid water. Their strength and agility fade quickly, and a single misstep could imperil the entire pack. For an instant, time seems to stand still. The elk swims with raw determination, muscles stiff, fur soaked and heavy, yet it presses on. With one final push, it reaches the far shore. Drenched, trembling, but alive, the wolves watch silently, eyes sharp but unyielding. The chance is gone. Victory belongs to the prey, while the hunters face a quiet, humbling defeat. In the wild, especially across the unforgiving lands of Yellowstone, patience is a weapon, not a flaw. Wolves do not waste energy on every attempt. They wait, keenly aware of the exact moment when their prey weakens, when the landscape or the weather tips in their favor. Today may have ended in failure, but hunger will return, bringing with it relentless ferocity. In these frozen lands, no predator can afford prolonged weakness. Time rewards those who endure, who refuse to surrender to the cold. The pack moves back in silence, a hush heavier than defeat itself. No howls echo through the snow-laden trees. Only the rhythm of labored breaths and the crunch of paws in frost breaks the quiet. In the shadows, fleeting expressions pass some frustration, some respect, others simply alert, waiting for the next chance. Leading the way is the alpha, a robust male with dark gray fur and a thick, commanding neck. He does not glance behind. His presence alone maintains order, authority flowing with every step. Beneath that dense coat, a body of agile power waits, muscles coiled, teeth sharp enough to rip into an elk in moments. In nature, true leadership does not come from size alone, but wisdom. The alpha knows how to gauge danger, select the right target, and keep the pack united. The valley pack once consisted of 6 to 8 wolves, a compact but highly organized society. Every member had a role. The leaders charted the path, the flankers closed in, the distractors disrupted the prey's formation, and the young learners watched silently, absorbing the craft of the hunt. In the world of wolves, teamwork is their most lethal weapon, often more decisive than strength. They hunt not with raw power alone, but with strategy, discipline, and a hierarchy every member honors. The alpha pauses on a small rise, scanning the distant plateau. Hunger drives them, yet the pack moves with patience. They spread into a wide arc, approaching a clearing where the air is thick with a primal signal sweat, mud, and something older, raw, unyielding power. Through the mist, a shadow drifts across the gray snow. But this is no ordinary shade, it is a living force. A herd of bison moves across the valley, colossal, almost prehistoric, each weighing nearly 900 kilograms. Their broad heads and short, curved horns could crush a predator with a single strike. Thick coats shield them from the harsh winter, and their massive frames are built to endure, not to flee. Bison stay tightly bonded. At the first sign of threat, they form a defensive circle, horns outward, calves and weaker members in the center. It's an ancient strategy, simple yet brilliant, a living barrier that protects the vulnerable and warns any predator daring to challenge them. The wolves know this, and that is why they do not rush. From the hillside, they watch in silence, eyes sharp, movements deliberate. There is no room for impulsiveness here. Facing a bison without a plan is a death sentence. So they change the rhythm of the hunt. They move along the herd, striking from the flanks, pressing the edges. Every nudge, every parallel dash builds tension, forcing the bison to tighten their formation. Chaos begins to creep in. A weakness appears in the defense. One lone bison starts to fall behind just a brief lapse in balance, but in the wild, a single moment can mark the line between life and death. In the awakening meadows, herds of bison move with deliberate slowness. But the scene has changed, no longer silent shadows drifting over snow, but a raw, primeval force, alive and commanding. Spring has arrived, and with it, the males enter rut. The land decides through strength, endurance, and sheer determination who will pass on their bloodline. In the animal kingdom, especially among massive herbivores, only the fittest, the strongest, and most vigorous win the right to reproduce. Bison fights are not just shows of power, they are nature's crucible, where only the worthy endure. Two colossal males lock eyes, dust clinging to their immense bodies, breath steaming in the dawn light. Then the collision comes. Tons of muscle and bone crash together. Horns slam like breaking boulders. Hooves gouge the earth and dust swirls like a storm. The duel is short but merciless. Every push, every pivot shakes the ground beneath them. In the end, one yields, exhausted, retreating while the victor claims the dominant male, now the guardian of the herd's future, ushers in a new generation. Weeks pass, and the outcome of these silent struggles becomes clear. Between April and June, The females give birth after nearly 9 months of gestation. Within hours, the calves are on shaky legs, and before the day ends, they are running across the meadow. Their fur is pale, still hornless, and their bright eyes reflect awe at the vastness around them. One nibbles at a butterfly flitting above the grass. Another leaps through wildflower, taon, caught in the rhythm of the wind. Soft, uncertain calls float across the fields, carried on the breeze. Close by, a watchful mother surveys her young, calm yet ever alert for danger. Soft, uncertain calls float across the fields, carried on the breeze. Close by, a watchful mother surveys her young, calm yet ever alert for danger. The morning dew had melted, leaving the earth glistening, dotted with golden sparks swaying in the soft breeze. The valley's wolf pack had finally found a rare pause after a brutal winter. They frolicked in the fresh grass, a fleeting image of serenity in a land shaped by survival. From the shadows of the bushes, a small figure emerged cautiously, a wolf pup. Covered in a soft mix of gray and brown fur, with floppy ears and unsteady legs. It sniffed the crisp air and lifted its head skyward, as if the world had just unveiled itself. Then, the wind shifted. The pack froze instantly, muzzles rising. A dry snap echoed through the forest, not the wind, not a deer. Out of the thicket stepped a massive black bear, its broad shoulders hunched, fur thick and dusted with earth. It moved deliberately, exuding a quiet confidence. Drawn perhaps by curiosity or the scent of the pup. The alpha male rose silently, muscles coiled and eyes sharp. Without a growl, without a sound, the wolves formed a semicircle, advancing as one. The mother nudged her pup back, while 2 others stepped forward, creating an unbroken line of defense. Not a single wolf retreated. The bear roared, a deep, forest-shaking sound, then surged forward with the force of a living boulder. The encounter was brief but intense. Within moments, the bear paused, breathing heavily, letting out a shorter, exhausted growl. Slowly, it turned and disappeared into the woods, leaving heavy footprints in the damp grass. The wolves held their ground, panting, eyes fixed on the vanishing shadow. They understood the quiet truth: survival is not always about killing. Sometimes it's about endurance, unity, and the strength to stand firm. Most importantly, the pup remained unharmed, a testament to the power of vigilance and family. Across the vast landscapes of Yellowstone, life continues its relentless cycle. Each new sunrise brings fresh opportunities and fresh challenges. Predators hunt, prey struggles, and nature maintains its delicate balance. Here, strength, cunning, and endurance decide who survives and who becomes part of the ever-changing scenery. What about you? How did it feel to witness these battles for survival? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us which moments of this wild journey touched you the most. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the heart of Yellowstone, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you can keep exploring the most breathtaking corners of our planet with us. At the northern edge of our planet, where the last glimmers of winter light fade quickly into endless darkness, lies the immense and silent expanse of Siberia. This vast land, spanning over 13 million square kilometers of Russia, stands as one of the world's most pristine and untamed wildernesses. In this realm, ice is not just a season, it is life itself. The Siberian winter is relentless, freezing the land in a seemingly eternal grip. The wind sweeps through the taiga with brutal intensity, whistling across snow-laden branches and leaving a chilling stillness in its wake. Temperatures can plunge to nearly 50 degrees below zero, and snow blankets the land continuously for weeks. Amid this frozen solitude, life persists in extraordinary forms. The Siberian tiger, the largest cat on Earth, prowls the deep snow with ghostly silence. Its thick fur and powerful build reflect a life forged in isolation and hardened by the extreme cold. Every tiger claims a massive territory, stretching across hundreds of square kilometers, where each step carries risk and reward. Food is scarce, forcing it to hunt relentlessly from wild boar and elk to scavenging when prey is scarce. In this harsh environment, even the mightiest predators must fight tirelessly every day to survive. When the harsh winter finally loosens its icy grip over Siberia, life stirs once more. The snow that had blanketed the land for months begins to retreat, revealing the dark, damp forest floor. Tiny green shoots push through the thawing earth, while rivers, long frozen, start flowing again, murmuring as if the heartbeat of the wilderness has returned. In this awakening landscape, one of the region's most impressive creatures emerges. Deep within an ice-laden den, the Siberian brown bear stirs from nearly 6 months of hibernation. With a weight that can reach 600 kilograms. Its first steps on the wet ground are hesitant and clumsy, but soon the bear regains its full strength. Every movement shakes the earth beneath its massive frame, and its curved claws dig into the soil with purpose. Hunger drives it forward, and the search for food begins immediately. Despite its massive size, the bear is cunning and adaptable. It roots through the soil for edible tubers, climbs slopes to reach thorny shrubs, and overturns decaying logs to find insects and larvae, making the most of the short Siberian summer. The true spectacle begins when the salmon swim upstream to spawn. Bears gather along the riverbanks, eyes narrowed against the bright sun, ears alert to the faintest splash. In a sudden, precise motion, the bear plunges into the icy water, claws slicing through the current, seizing a wriggling salmon. Water sprays in all directions as the bear settles on the shore, devouring its prey with focused calm. Each meal restores energy and builds the fat reserves necessary to survive the next long winter. A fully grown brown bear can consume up to 40 kilograms of food in a single day. Its existence is a continuous cycle of movement, foraging, and survival. In Siberia, time is merciless, and the summer is brief, a fleeting window of life before the cold returns. The taiga was bathed in the copper light of evening. Sunlight streamed through the tall pines, illuminating the moist forest floor with a warm, golden hue. In this quiet wilderness, a mother bear and her 3 cubs moved cautiously through the underbrush. The mother, a powerful female with fur matted in mud and resin, carefully picked blueberries while her 6-month-old cubs tumbled over roots, chasing insects and exploring the forest with clumsy curiosity. The calm was fleeting. From the far slope, a massive figure emerged from the shadows. A fully grown male bear, nearly a third larger than the mother, his dark, smoky fur stretched over solid muscle, approached with careful steps. His small, piercing eyes scanned the surroundings. In the wild, no space is ever completely safe, and territory is constantly contested. For adult male bears, cubs that do not belong to them are not companions, they are potential threats. In some cases, males will kill unrelated young to bring the female back into heat and ensure their own offspring inherit the next generation. That afternoon, this harsh instinct made itself known once more. The encounter was short but intense, a flurry of roars and swipes. The male eventually backed down, not out of fear, but realizing the risk of injury was too high. With a final roar, he turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving only his presence echoed in the trees. At dawn, pale light spread across the taiga, settling over the exhaustion of the previous night. The mother bear stood, her fur tangled and streaked with blood, yet her eyes remained sharp and resolute. Her cubs followed closely, unaware of the danger they had narrowly avoided. The mother had risked her life to protect them, and her vigilance remained unbroken. With the first morning rays breaking through the canopy, the family began their journey toward a distant stream where the salmon were beginning their run. The water lay over 3 kilometers away, a long trek for such young cubs, but necessary. Summer is the season of survival lessons, how to forage, sense danger, understand the sounds of the forest, and most importantly, how to endure on their own. in the shadowy depths of Siberia's ancient pine forests, where sunlight barely pierces the thick canopy, a tiny master of the air moves almost unseen. The Siberian flying squirrel may be small and light as a handful of leaves, yet it possesses a skill in motion unmatched by most mammals. Throughout the day, it rests tucked away in hollow birches, wrapped in a nest of dried moss and bark fragments, appearing like a soft bundle of forest debris. As evening falls and the taiga is bathed in a pale green twilight, the little squirrel slowly awakens. Its dark, glossy eyes reflect the faint moonlight, allowing it to navigate with astonishing precision in the gloom. Each movement is deliberate and silent, as if the air itself supports its glide. Unlike other creatures, it does not leap or bound, it floats. From a branch, it pauses for a moment, gauging distance and the current of the wind. Then, with a delicate push, it launches into the void. A thin membrane of skin stretching from its forelimbs to hind limbs unfurls, forming a natural glider. The squirrel doesn't fall its sails. It drifts between the trees, steering with its tail and limbs, moving through the forest like a living shadow, a breath of wind taking flight. As night deepens over the Siberian forest, the tiny flying squirrel moves silently through the ancient trees. Its fur, soft and muted in tone, blends perfectly with the shadows, rendering it almost invisible to any predator. Each leap is calculated, every glide precise, an aerial dance perfected over countless generations. By night, it forages quietly, nibbling on tender shoots, fungi clinging to damp bark, and occasional seeds hidden among the moss. It takes only what it needs, conserving energy for the long winter ahead. Unlike larger forest dwellers, it does not rely on brute force or sharp claws. It thrives on stealth, agility, and careful planning. When winter arrives, snow settles thickly on the branches, yet the flying squirrel remains in the treetops. Its fur thickens, its glides shorten, and caches of food become vital for survival. Every stored morsel is a lifeline, each movement measured to preserve warmth and strength. In a land dominated by tigers, wolves, bears, and eagles, this little creature is neither feared nor dominant, yet its quiet existence embodies the subtle, magical beauty of nature. A shadow slips among the trees, a whisper of life, a reminder that even in the harshest wilderness, gentleness and resilience endure. In the heart of the Siberian winter, the landscape is a vast sea of ice and snow, stretching endlessly under a pale, fragile sun. The forest lies in silence, stripped bare of life's usual chorus. Only the wind whispers through the frozen trees, and the crunch of ice underfoot occasionally breaks the stillness, announcing the presence of those who endure against all odds. Through this frozen expanse, a herd of muskoxen moves with calm determination. Each massive creature draped in thick, shaggy fur is a living relic of the Ice Age, a silent witness to millennia of survival. Their dense outer hair nearly touches the snow, while a softer, insulated undercoat caveat keeps them alive in temperatures that can plunge far below -50 degrees. It is a coat designed by evolution, both soft and unyielding, a perfect adaptation to the harshest conditions on Earth. The herd does not hurry. Step by step, they press forward, leaving deep impressions in the snow that mark their slow but steady journey. Their pace is deliberate, measured, the kind born from centuries of living in a land where patience is survival. Each hoofbeat is a testament to endurance, a rhythm in the silent symphony of the frozen wilderness. In this frozen realm, life persists not through speed or strength alone, but through resilience, cooperation, and the wisdom to survive the relentless winter. As the storm subsides, the tundra falls into a quiet, almost sacred calm. The muskoxen continue their slow, deliberate trek, each step pressing into the snow, leaving deep impressions that will soon vanish under fresh flurries. The calves follow closely, wobbling but persistent, learning the rhythm of survival from their elders. Every movement is a lesson in patience, endurance, and the quiet strength that has carried their species through millennia. Above them, the sky lightens with a pale, frosty hue. The wind softens, carrying the faint scent of hidden mosses and lichens. The herd spreads slightly, grazing cautiously, yet never straying far from the protective circle of adults. In these vast, frozen landscapes, life is measured not in speed or cunning alone, but in resilience. Every breath, every step, every shared glance among the herd is a testament to a species perfectly adapted to the harshest winters on Earth. Here in Siberia, to survive is not to conquer the elements, but to endure them together strong, united, and unwavering against the relentless cold. Across the remote wilderness of Yellowstone and the vast frozen expanses of Siberia, life persists with awe-inspiring force. In these lands, predators lie in wait, prey fight to survive, and the timeless rhythm of the natural world continues, precise and unchanging over thousands of years. Here, survival is not merely a contest of strength, it is a lesson in resilience, strategy, and adaptation. It shows us that raw power does not always win, that collaboration can outmatch instinct, and that even in the harshest climates, life finds a way to endure and flourish. While wolves, bison, and bears follow their ancient cycles, humanity casts the greatest shadow. Forests shrink, rivers grow toxic, and the fragile balance of these ecosystems teeters on the brink. Yet hope remains alive. Every protected area, every conservation initiative, and every individual who takes action becomes a spark capable of changing the fate of an entire habitat. To protect the wild is not merely an act of compassion, it is essential for our own survival. Our destinies are intertwined. If these creatures vanish, so too does a part of our world. For an instant, time seems to stand still. The elk swims with raw determination, muscles stiff, fur soaked and heavy, yet it presses on. With one final push, it reaches the far shore. The rolling plains of Yellowstone will continue to resound with the thundering steps of bison. Wolves will lift their calls beneath the Siberian auroras. And if we take the time to truly listen, we will understand that the wilderness does not require our mercy. It commands our respect. If this journey through the wild inspired you, show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Explore with us the untamed corners of the planet, where every life is vital and every choice leaves an impact. Across the vast African savanna, every breath and every step can tip the balance between life and death. This is a land where survival is earned through constant exposure to danger, where threats remain close even during moments that seem peaceful. Here, strength is not defined by appearance or raw aggression, but by the ability to endure when all forces push toward collapse. Within this unforgiving landscape, few presences command as much respect as the alliance of the Cape buffalo. Their power does not lie in speed or individual cunning, but in unity, resilience, and unwavering resolve. Together they form one of the most formidable forces on the African plains, a living barrier standing against hunger predators and the relentless passage of time. Every movement of the herd is a statement of survival, a collective answer to a world that offers no second chances. In this way, the savanna becomes an endless arena of struggle where life continues through endurance, cooperation, and the refusal to yield. In Africa, survival belongs to those who can stand firm. The soft light of dawn slowly spreads across the open plains, awakening a landscape that has followed the same rhythm for countless generations. Nothing unfolds in haste or chaos, only the whisper of wind through dry grasses and the steady breathing of animals preparing to face another day. In this land, true power is not found in appearance, but in endurance. In the distance, massive shapes begin to move across the horizon. These are Cape buffalo, formidable animals known for their unpredictable temperament and unbreakable social bonds. At the front walks a fully grown bull. His broad, curved horns merge at the forehead, forming a natural shield that few predators could ever breach. He leads what is often called a strong alliance, a coalition of the most powerful males bound together by a single-purpose: survival. African buffalo are far from easy targets. Many weigh over 700 kilograms, and their thick hides and dense muscle allow them to withstand attacks from even the most feared hunters of the savannah. Yet their greatest defense is not individual strength, but the unity of the herd. They move as one, tightly grouped and constantly alert. Ears flick in every direction, eyes scan the tall grass without pause. If one slows, the others adjust. When danger appears, they do not flee, they regroup, stand firm, and confront the threat together. As the sun climbs higher and heat begins to blanket the savannah, a quiet danger takes shape. Within the golden tones of the grass, subtle movements glide almost unseen. A group of lionesses fans out, approaching from multiple angles. They are strategic, patient, and fully aware of the risk ahead. Buffalo are not ideal prey, they are dangerous opponents. But when hunger grows strong, every choice carries its own peril. The strong alliance presses forward, their heavy hooves striking the cracked earth in a steady rhythm. Unaware to them, only meters away, several amber eyes track every movement with unwavering focus. One buffalo on the outer edge of the group begins to lag behind. He is not injured, but his breathing grows labored. That alone is enough. The attack never fully unfolds. The buffalo collapses from exhaustion, and the lionesses halt, stepping back with measured caution. They have achieved their goal. The confrontation is over. On the African savannah, there are no permanent victors, only animals that manage to endure one more day. Today, the strong alliance pays a price, losing one of its own. It is the unavoidable cost of the endless struggle between predators and the power of unity. The wind rises dry and relentless, sweeping fine dust across the fractured ground. The grass lies short and brittle as the dry season refuses to loosen its grip. Within the strong alliance, tension thickens. The bulls begin to study one another, standing still, locked in Gingland evaluation. The air fills with the sharp scent of hormones, an unmistakable signal that a clash is imminent. Two of the largest buffaloes step forward until they stand face to face. There are no warning calls, no dramatic displays. Cape buffalo do not waste energy on empty threats. When conflict comes, it is direct, deliberate, and decisive. In a sudden flash, everything unfolds at once. Two bodies weighing hundreds of kilograms crash together with explosive force. The collision sends a tremor through the ground. One of them falters for a split second, just long enough. That brief loss of balance is all it takes for fate to be decided. The victor remains standing, breathing hard, head held high, eyes steady and unyielding. This victory goes far beyond the clash itself. It grants the right to breed, to pass strength and resilience on to the next generation. There is no celebration, no outward display of dominance. Only the quiet enforcement of nature's oldest rules, where life moves forward through those able to endure, prevail, and protect what follows them. Before the dust stirred up in lion territory has time to fully settle, the savannah slips back into its steady, timeless rhythm. In the distance, massive shapes emerge, moving with the calm certainty of drifting hills. These are African elephants. These gentle giants dominate the African landscape. The African elephant, Loxodonta africana, is the largest land animal alive today. Fully grown adults can weigh more than 6 tons, and their enormous ears, spread wide like sails, help release excess heat under the relentless sun. Their trunk, long and remarkably dexterous, is an indispensable tool. It allows them to breathe, drink, gather food, communicate, and even express emotion. Unlike buffalo or big cats, elephant society is guided by experience rather than strength. At the heart of each herd stands the matriarch, the oldest and most knowledgeable female. Within her memory lies a living archive of the savanna, an unseen map that reveals where water can be found during drought, which grounds are safest for giving birth, and which areas must be avoided due to dangers rooted in the past. The herd moves forward at an unhurried pace, yet with absolute purpose. The calves remain at the center at all times, encircled by adults who guard them without pause. At the slightest hint of danger, the group closes ranks, instantly forming a living barrier, silent, solid, and formidable. Elephants rarely seek confrontation, but when they are cornered, especially if their young are threatened, their response can be overwhelming. Even lions understand that a united elephant herd is not an opponent worth challenging. Beyond their immense size, these animals play a vital role in shaping the ecosystem. By pushing over shrubs and trees, they open the landscape, allowing grasses to flourish. When they dig for water, they unknowingly create lifelines that sustain countless other species during the dry season. Seeds travel with them across the savanna, scattered with every step they take. Wherever elephants roam, the land is changed not suddenly or violently, but gradually, deeply, and forever. In a world defined by constant competition, African elephants remind us that true strength lies not only in the ability to defend oneself, but in the power to support, reshape, and sustain life itself. As those peaceful giants disappear beyond the horizon, the savanna carries on with its timeless rhythm. This is a land where every species, whether predator or grazer, plays a crucial role in keeping nature's machinery alive. Suddenly, the ground begins to shudder. At first, it is a faint vibration, barely noticeable. Within seconds, it builds into a deep, thunderous pulse that spreads across the plains. Far away, faint shapes take form. Then come hundreds, soon thousands of animals moving as one, flowing across the open land like an endless tide. They are wildebeest, heavy-bodied, broad-headed antelopes with curved horns sweeping outward. The blue wildebeest Conochaetes taurinus may look clumsy at first glance, but appearances are deceiving. It is one of the toughest and most enduring species in Africa. Wildebeest live and travel in vast herds driven by instinct alone. An ancient urge compels them forward without rest, always searching for fresh grazing grounds and dependable water. Their great annual migration, repeated year after year across generations, remains one of the most extraordinary wildlife events on the planet. Within the herd, safety is never guaranteed. Newborn calves must stand and run within minutes of entering the world. The weakest individuals are especially vulnerable, often falling victim to lions, hyenas, or crocodiles during dangerous river crossings. Yet it is this very abundance, the sheer size of the herd, that ensures the species endures. While predators focus their attention on a single target, countless others continue moving forward without pause. Wildebeest are more than prey. They are a driving force of the ecosystem itself. By grazing relentlessly, they prevent grasses from growing old and dry, encouraging fresh shoots to emerge. Their droppings return vital nutrients to the soil, sustaining insects, birds, and countless smaller organisms. As the herd advances, it shapes the path for life around it. Zebras trail behind. Lions follow in silence, and scavengers wait patiently for opportunity. Every step taken by this living river strengthens the intricate web of African life. Without wildebeest, the savanna would lose its rhythm. Without migration, the renewal of the grasslands would falter. And when the herd finally fades into the distance, wrapped in a rising cloud of dust, the land falls quiet, waiting for the next great heartbeat. Then the first heavy rain arrives, sudden, powerful, and full of promise. This is the moment Cape buffalo have been waiting for. Within the herd, the change is unmistakable. The female's bodies signal renewal, and the land itself, now green and revived, announces the beginning of the breeding season. Expectant mothers move toward open level ground where long sight lines reduce the risk of surprise attacks. In these exposed spaces, predators have fewer places to hide, and vigilance becomes the herd's greatest ally. With the return of water and fresh grass, a new cycle of life begins, timed precisely to the rhythms of the savanna. There is no chaos, no confusion. The birth unfolds quietly in rhythm with the ancient heartbeat of the savanna. A buffalo calf enters the world. Its legs tremble, its dark coat glistens beneath the light rain. Within minutes, it must struggle to its feet. Here, there is no space for weakness. The mother stays close, her massive body forming a living shield. Around her, other females gather instinctively, creating a protective wall of muscle and horns. Every stare is alert, every movement deliberate. Lions, hyenas, and leopards understand that approaching a buffalo herd at this moment carries serious risk. Still, danger is never fully absent. The rains bring abundance, but they also draw predators. Calves must learn quickly to keep pace with the herd, to recognize unfamiliar sounds, to adapt from their first days to a life shaped by constant vigilance. Beneath the gray skies of the wet season, the Cape buffalo herd presses on. New lives merge into the endless flow of the savanna. The tracks left in the soft mud are soon washed away by the rain. Yet the mark of the calving season remains. In the African savanna, every rainfall does more than restore green to the land. It opens the door to a new generation. For the Cape buffalo, it is a promise of continuity, shared strength, unity, and resilience in a land that never stops testing them. Do you think the alliance of Cape buffalo is strong enough to deter every predator? Share your thoughts in the comments. Gambia stretches like a narrow, vibrant ribbon through the heart of West Africa, where the river sets the rhythm of life and nature follows its own rules. Here, water, forest, and sky are bound together in a constant struggle to endure. The murky riverbanks hold untold stories of resilience, while dense mangroves and sun-scorched savannas conceal silent threats. Every corner carries danger. Every pause can be fatal. In Gambia, all living beings exist within a fragile balance between survival and disappearance. With each sunrise, a new trial begins. Before the heat takes control of the day, hunger awakens the oldest instincts. This is Gambia, small in size, yet vast in the power of its untamed spirit. Deep within the riverine forests, a presence moves with flawless stealth. It is the leopard Panthera pardus, a master of silence, embodying both elegance and deadly precision. Its golden coat, patterned with dark rosettes, blends seamlessly with shifting light and shadow. From high in the trees, it watches with unwavering focus, studying every movement, weighing every possibility. In this land, the leopard is both feared and admired. It embodies raw strength and the art of survival. Its amber eyes mirror the sunlit savannas by day and the moon-washed forests by night. Within the fragile balance of nature, it rules without ceremony, quiet, methodical, and undeniably dominant. The first light of dawn slips gently through the dense green canopy. The air remains cool, heavy with the scent of damp soil and newly awakened plants. Near the water's edge, concealed beneath thick brush, the leopard opens its eyes. The hollow ache in its stomach is a clear signal the day demands another hunt. Rising with smooth, controlled movements, it glides across grass still wet with dew. Suddenly, a faint trace of warm skin drifts through the air. In a nearby clearing, a bushbuck antelope rests calmly bathed in the morning sun, unaware that danger is already closing in. Step by step, the predator closes in without a sound. Its body lowers to the ground, muscles coiled tight like a spring ready to release. The gap narrows. The leopard's heartbeat falls into rhythm with the stillness around it. Then in a split second, everything changes. It surges forward. A flash of gold cuts through the grass. Almost immediately, calm returns, broken only by the heavy breathing of the hunter standing over its captured prey. A warm breeze moves through the leaves, carrying away the last traces of the sudden struggle. The leopard tightens its grip as the motion beneath it fades. The decisive bite is swift and exact, a reminder of the price paid for survival. In this world, life continues through patience, precision, and the courage to strike at precisely the right moment. The forest remains alert as it always does, poised for the next chase, the next heartbeat, the next story to be written without a sound. Dawn spreads its golden light across the dense canopy of Gambia's forests, setting the leaves aglow as if brushed by a gentle flame. Nearby, leopard cubs with bright eyes and softly spotted coats tumble and play, nipping at one another's tails in harmless games. Without drawing attention, their mother slips into the deeper shadows, beginning her daily hunt. She moves low and silent ears, tuned to every signal, each step measured on soil still cool from the night. Then behind her, the calm shatters without warning. Harsh, chaotic cries erupt from within the jungle. A troop of baboons surges forward like a living storm. They are not natural predators of the leopard, but their strength in numbers and collective aggression can be deadly. Without hesitation, one of the cubs bolts for the nearest tree claws, digging into the bark as it scrambles upward in panic. The baboons react instantly, climbing just as fast, their bodies perfectly adapted for pursuit among the branches. In moments, the cub is cornered on the highest, most fragile limb it can reach. Its cries are sharp and fearful, cutting through the morning chorus of the forest like an alarm. Far away, the mother had already begun her hunt, yet something deep within her stirs. A sudden, unsettling sense of danger takes hold. Maternal instinct ignites without warning. The hunt no longer matters. She races back through the trees at full speed, weaving past trunks and roots, closing the distance with every powerful stride. When she arrives, the sight stops her cold for an instant. The baboons have surrounded her cub high in the tree. The cub freezes in place, its fur standing on end, eyes scanning desperately for an escape that does not exist. Below, the mother remains concealed within nearby bushes, tracking every movement of her adversaries. A direct attack would be fatal against so many strong, aggressive rivals. One baboon edges closer, fangs bared and voice raised in a furious display, but stops short of striking. The message is unmistakable, a warning, a claim of dominance over this space. Slowly, the troop becomes aware of the silent presence watching from below. Two golden eyes burn from the shadows. One by one, the baboons retreat from the tree and melt back into the dense green vegetation. The clamor fades until only the familiar rhythm of the forest remains. In an instant, the mother springs toward the trunk, climbing with practiced precision, her claws locking into old grooves in the bark. The cub sees her and begins its careful descent. Step by step, it climbs down to where she waits. Reassured by her presence, the mother leans in, presses her head gently against the cub's, and licks its fur, calming the fear and restoring a fragile sense of safety. The cub presses itself against her chest, drawing comfort from the warmth of her body. The moment ends without further conflict. No blood is spilled. Yet deep within the leopard's mind, the memory is etched clearly, and it will not fade easily. Morning light now spreads gently across the open plain, washing the forest's edge in soft shades of gold and signaling the rise of the day's heat. In scattered groups, the baboons move through the grass, foraging calmly, plucking wild fruits with nimble, well-practiced fingers. Their calls echo across the open land, playful in tone, yet still carrying the confidence born from yesterday's encounter. Driving the leopard family away has become an unspoken badge of triumph, strengthening their sense of security. But from within the shadows, a pair of golden eyes watches with unwavering focus. The leopard mother has only one thought: today the balance will be answered. Her body is held in controlled tension like a living spring, prepared to unleash immense power without hesitation. Every muscle works in complete silence. She moves forward with precise steps, her belly skimming the ground as she melts into the shifting shadows shaped by the sun. The baboons, unaware of any danger, remain absorbed in their search for food. No heads turn. No sentry stands watch. They sense nothing. The predator is already within striking distance. The leopard lowers her profile even further as she closes in. She glides ahead with almost imperceptible grace. Still, the baboons fail to notice the threat drawing nearer. Her entire body tightens, perfectly poised, conserving energy as she waits for the exact moment to act. Then, in the blink of an eye, stealth gives way to explosive speed. A streak of gold surges across the clearing, powered by muscle instinct and a mother's fierce resolve. Order collapses instantly. Sharp alarm calls pierce the air as the group scatters in every direction. But for one, the escape comes too late. Its cry is cut short as the leopard's strike finds its mark, swift and decisive, ending the chase in a single precise motion. Swift and efficient, the leopard brings the confrontation to an end. The rest of the troop retreats toward the trees, yesterday's confidence collapsing into pure panic. With effortless strength, she lifts the lifeless weight and moves away, her gaze steady, her presence unquestionable. No sound is needed. The message is clear. She has returned and the balance has been answered. She crosses the open grassland without slowing, leaving behind the silent trace of her success. At the edge of her territory, two small shapes emerge from the cover of vegetation. Her cubs approach carefully, noses lifted, testing the air. The familiar scent triggers an instant recognition. They understand at once this is the threat that filled them with fear only a day before. For the mother, this was never just a hunt. It was a reckoning written in instinct and resolve. She knows other trials will come, but for now, order has been restored. As stillness settles once more over the plain, one truth remains unspoken yet unmistakable. The leopard's family is not to be challenged. She closes her eyes, not in weakness, but in the quiet certainty of a predator that has fulfilled its role. Dawn washes the wet land in soft shades of pale gold. A thin veil of mist rises from the still water, drifting upward like a quiet, held breath. The baboons stir early, alert and watchful. From the shelter of the forest, they emerge in loose clusters and move with purpose toward the shoreline. This morning, their focus is on tender shoots and fresh leaves growing among the aquatic plants at the water's edge. The troop spreads out along the muddy banks. Some wade into the shallow water, skillfully plucking green leaves with practiced hands. Others settle on dry patches of ground, chewing eagerly, their lips stained with fresh vegetation. The scene is calm, shaped by the soft sounds of feeding, gentle splashes, and the muted calls of the young. Then, without warning, a deep growl cuts through the stillness like a sudden clap of thunder. Two dominant males square off. Their bodies stiffen for bristling as ancient instincts take over. They charge at one another with explosive force, colliding in a clash of muscle and will. Teeth flash, limbs strike, and harsh cries fill the marsh, echoing through the distant trees like the sounds of battle. The group freezes. Some voices rise, urging the fight on, while others pull back to avoid stray blows. Each collision lands with raw force, water splashing beneath tangled limbs. Growls blend with the sound of churning mud, forming a chaotic, relentless rhythm. Neither contender yields. Both believe that backing down would cost more than any wound. Then, without warning, the water behind them shifts and swells into a dark, rising shape. A Nile crocodile, massive and ancient, bursts from the surface, its yellow eyes catching the first light of dawn. The predator needs no invitation. Its presence alone commands instant fear. In a heartbeat, the rivals break apart, pride abandoned in favor of survival. confrontation ends without a victor, not through defeat, but through understanding. In this world, survival is not decided by strength alone, but by knowing precisely when to retreat. On the African savanna, every confrontation eventually ends, yet the struggle to exist never truly does. Here, each breath and every step marks the fragile line between survival and vanishing forever. Real strength is not always revealed through fangs or speed, but through endurance, the ability to stand firm and withstand the relentless pressure of the wild. Among the many players on this untamed stage, the Cape buffalo stands as a symbol of unity. It is more than an individual body. It is a shared will. When facing the savanna's most feared predators, their solidarity and resilience transform them into one of the land's most formidable coalitions. A living wall proving that survival is not always about striking first, but about standing together. And so each day in Africa draws to a close without absolute victors, only survivors. The savanna repeats its oldest lesson. In a world where anything can fail, true strength lies in remaining on your feet for one moment longer.